Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about, will Yu-Gi-Oh still be around in 20 years? So this is a response to a response that I made to this tweet, right? So House of Champs, I think that's his official. That's Jonathan Moore, for those who don't know. But that's like, I don't think it's his personal account. I'm pretty sure that's just his YouTube account. He made this tweet right here about bringing back from the year 2040. Sprite just got second legendary support. There's a Supreme Monarch structure deck. Nightcross still doesn't have a trap. And the top Yu-Gi-Oh streamer no one would have guessed would be there and is now. And I don't know what that was. I think this was a question or something. I don't know. But anyway, I said Yu-Gi-Oh will not be around by then, right? And to which he then responded with, they were saying that when Synchros came out, we're still 15 years later, Konami isn't going to take their cash cow out to pasture. And I said, Konami's main source of income is their casino games. Yu-Gi-Oh is not in GameStop's, Targets, Walmart's, anywhere. You can act like you know it all and it's not going anywhere, but you know as well as I do, the way Yu-Gi-Oh is now is not sustainable for 20 years. It's in Targets, GameStop, Walmart here, and sells out even the bad sets, right? That's actually not a good thing. That's actually not a positive. That's actually a negative towards his own argument. Because if it's selling out the bad sets, like I've never gone to Walmart, Target. There are Myers up here in the Midwestern territory because I live in Michigan. I actually live in the second biggest city in Michigan too, because there was another person that commented this too, like, oh, well, it's in my city, but it's in my city, but at my Kroger, my Circle K, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh pack there, and it's like you're looking at it from a very minute and small picture. You're not looking at it in the big picture, right? And as if also, if you study Konami's earning reports, Duel Links was the #1 earner for a while. That's also not true. And the TCG has been a strong earner, and they've been pumping up licensing and marketing harder for it, right? And so then that's where we get to this. If we see, he posted this whole thing about all of this, and he said that Yu-Gi-Oh is in all these places in my area, right? Once again, just because it's in that area doesn't mean it's in all areas. Don't try to act like I'm fake to pump up Yu-Gi-Oh. Definitely didn't do that, right? And this is definitely a form of like reflecting, of like projecting, like this is how I feel about what you said, right? And then the reason for that is people, and I've never done what I'm about to say, by the way, and I'm not doing it now either, but people have claimed that because he makes a living talking about Yu-Gi-Oh and selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards, it's more beneficial for him for the game to stick around. So he's trying to pump Yu-Gi-Oh up, right? First off, I've never said that, like I said. Second off, I wasn't saying that in this situation. So the fact that he brought it up is more of a reflection on how he thinks about what he's talking about and less about what I'm talking about. And thirdly, no offense to House of Champs, which is one of the biggest YouTube channels dedicated to Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I don't think he's big enough to keep the game alive by himself, right? And I think that's what people imply when they say things, and because they can say the same things about me, right? Like, oh, Connor's talking about this card, and this card's going to go up, and this card's going to go up, and he talked about Dark Ruler No More, and then all of a sudden it started to go up in price. Isn't that a coincidence? And they say that about, the bigger market watches like MCO40 and House of Champs and Master Swag King and different people like that. Even MST.TV, I think, also does market watches. And there's other people, too, that I forgot. That's just, correlation doesn't equal causation, right? Just because I or House of Champs talks about a card or talks about Yu-Gi-Oh's doing great doesn't mean that it actually is, right? And he posted some good numbers here. And I will say this, right? Because this has been a lot of like, he's wrong. Yu-Gi-Oh, if we look at money made last year, right? There was articles everywhere talking about Konami just had its most profitable year ever, and this is from GameSpot, right? So it's a pretty decent source, thanks mostly to Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Konami sells, that's a very long time. I don't know why. There's an article from 2002. And we look, I saw a bunch of other articles when I did this. It's probably because I did it on Google. Now I'm doing it on Bing. But just sticking to an article like this, there was other articles too that were saying this, right? And this was, according to the report, the company saw a 10% increase in the revenue of the financial year and doubling in its profit year on year. And a large portion of that was because of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which came out the tail end of last year, right? As well as like Duel Links and different things like that. However, right, and I think that's where he got the idea of, because 10 times gaming in systems, right? Like, and that's why we see the digital entertainment numbers are so high, right? And that's why he thinks that Yu-Gi-Oh's doing really well, right? But you got to remember, context is everything, right? In different things like this. And so a big thing of that is, last year, there was a huge influx of players, right? Because in 2020, nobody could play Yu-Gi-Oh!, right? And I will say this too, as far as, that's actually really good to see, if you think about it, that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was able to go through the global pandemic. Men's Warehouse declared bankruptcy, right? Hundreds of companies declared bankruptcy 2 years ago, in the 2020 global pandemic, right? And Yu-Gi-Oh! Did not, right? However, if we go back to my original statement, right? Which, first off, Konami's main source of income is their casino games. The reason I say that with so much conviction isn't because I work at Konami. It's because I know how casinos work, okay? And casinos have what Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not have, right? And we'll talk about that in a second, because what I say in response to his response, right, is that they were saying that when the sequels came out, right, and they're not going to take their cash cow out to posture. If I can see this one more time. I have like 2 different Twitter accounts, so I'm not on this one right now, right? But you know as well as I do, the way Yu-Gi-Oh! is not sustainable for 20 more years, right? And obviously, his tweet got 224 likes, and mine got 1 like, and this is a quote tweet by him, and he's got 18, right? And mine only has 1, and this guy that agrees with me, right? And he only has 1 like, because it's a home game for him. You know what I mean? It's like the videos of Super Hot Fire, right? Where, like, he's rapping in front of like 1,000 of his supporters, and he says like something kind of wild, and all of his supporters go crazy, and the other guy starts talking, and they're like playing chess and like doing rock, paper, scissors and stuff like that's like that. Like, obviously, in a Twitter thread that's on House of Champs Twitter, he's going to get a better response than I do, right? But this is a big problem that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has, and it goes back to why I say casino games are their main source of income, right? Because Yu-Gi-Oh!, like casinos, right, they can have 3 types of people. People who have always gone to casinos, right? Or people who have always played Yu-Gi-Oh!, right? I think Lithium 2300 comes to mind. I think MCO 40 comes to mind. There's others as well, I know for a fact, who played Yu-Gi-Oh! When the first set came out and has never stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! All the way up until now, which is insane, right? And Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been around for a while, right? And that's the interesting thing, too. I'm actually arguing on what I would consider to be the harder side of the argument, because Yu-Gi-Oh!, if we get the official start date, was in 96. Right? So Yu-Gi-Oh's been around for 26 years, and I'm claiming it won't be around for another 18, right? But this is my main reasoning why, because I think about this stuff a lot, and I've been meaning to post a video about this type of thing, right? Because when the announcement of Sprite to the TCG happened, a lot of people started claiming they were going to quit Yu-Gi-Oh!, right? And so, like I said, going back to the casinos as a comparison and an analogy, right? Casinos have people who their first day they turn 21, let's go to the casino, and they go to the casino every day, every week, every month, etc. They have an entire city. I actually just visited Las Vegas. They have an entire city dedicated to casinos. Okay, it's a very big industry, and if you go, and I know some people haven't ever been to a casino, or they've been to a casino once or twice. They haven't gone to casinos enough to see the name brands on the casinos, but I have about a third, if not maybe closer to like not half, but a third, somewhere in between there, right? I guess like three, not like a certain amount have Konami plastered all over them. Like I would say, let's say 45%. It's anywhere from like 35 to 45% of casino games have Konami plastered on them, right? And what else does casinos have? Do casinos have, excuse me. Well, like I said, there's three types of people that can play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or do casinos, or do just about anything, right? There's the people who have been playing it since it started, or since they could start, right? And then there are the people who started then but left, swore it off, I'm never doing it again, and came back. If we look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, most people are in that category, right? But there's a lot of businesses you can make. I would assume casinos, right, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Make most of their money from returning people, right? And it's an unfortunate thing for casinos, but it's actually also an unfortunate thing sometimes for Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes people do start spending a little bit more than what they have at Yu-Gi-Oh! But that does, however, happen a little bit more at casinos, unfortunately, right? So always buy Yu-Gi-Oh! Packs responsibly. And the only reason I'm using casinos as an example is because Konami's main source of income is their casinos games, right? That's the only reason why I'm talking about casinos. And here's the reason why I say that. We get to the final thing. Like I said, there's three types of people that play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or go to casinos. One, people who've always played. Two, people who played for a while, left, and came back, right? Or even they've done that multiple times. I myself have done that multiple times. I'm sure we've seen a lot of people who have this huge rant, kind of like what sounds like what I'm doing right now, right? And then they walk off and they say they're never coming back and playing the game ever again. And we see them 3 months later back at the local shop. And it's like, okay, welcome back, right? But the final type of person, and this is the person that I think is non-existent, or if it is existent, I don't see it, is the new person, right? Every year, a new group of people turn 21 and they go to casinos, right? Let's say, this is a random number, 1 million people go to a casino, turn 21, right? In a certain month. Let's say 5% of them, which I think is 500. I don't know what 5% of 1 million is. I think it's 5,000. One of those two numbers, right? Doesn't matter. The numbers are arbitrary, so they don't matter. They go to the casinos, right? Where would Konami be getting the new players to Yu-Gi-Oh? Because it used to be a really big thing with the anime, right? And maybe this is just because I've gotten older and I know that the animes are more targeted towards kids. I don't really know where to find the animes, right? I know that Yu-Gi-Oh! I think it used to be on ABC. I know it was on 4Kids TV for a while. I know that Pluto TV, actually, if you have Pluto TV, I'm not sponsored by them, but it's completely free. And they have like 2 or 3 different Yu-Gi-Oh! Channels actually completely dedicated to Yu-Gi-Oh! I think there's like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the original series, and then there's like other different Yu-Gi-Oh! Things. That's where I can find Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is also on Hulu as well. So I see all those different things. Right? But I don't know where to find new episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't know if we're going to get a new show or if they're just going to be done. Like, are we going to get a new summoning mechanic? Right? And I think that's a big reason why this thought has been on my mind, because I'm looking at the time, like, okay, between, GX and 5Ds and 5Ds and Zexal and Arc V and V-Rains. We're about at that time to get a new show that introduces a new summoning mechanic. And to Konami's credit, when V-Rains was announced, they did fix some things. Right? They moved the pendulum zones, right? Because there were some pendulum-based decks that could run like 5 back row for some reason, and then they would also be able to put their 2 scales in. Like, you don't usually think of a pendulum deck being able to run 5 back row, but there were some decks that were able to do that and abuse that, right? Also during Master Rule 3, remember, they could summon them to the main monster zones. The idea of an extra monster zone didn't exist. Right, so Master Duel 4 introduced that. And then they were like, we'd kind of nerfed Synchros and Xyz and Fusions too much, so they reverted it to Master Rule 5. And I actually really like those adjustments from Konami, right? But when I say Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not sustainable for 20 more years, I simply say that due to the fact that the amount of new players that Yu-Gi-Oh, just from my perspective, seems to be generating is borderline non-existent. And the only thing that's going to happen is at some point, the returning players are going to get to a breaking spot where they're done, right? At some point, we're going to see, and like I said, maybe you're a little bit newer to the Yu-Gi-Oh scene, you haven't seen it, but I remember when I first started watching YugiTube, there was just like this random group of people that just started dropping, and like, I'm done doing Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm done doing Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube, I'm done doing Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube, and different things like that. And I saw like these smaller YouTube channels like DZeef, House of Champs, even MCO40, Team Samurai X1, turn into these massive Yu-Gi-Oh channels. And MCO40's got 100,000 subscribers. I think House of Champs has, he has, I don't want to go, let's just go right here just before we start saying random numbers again, because we actually can look this up. I think House of Champs, I think he's at 100,000. Or he's at 64,000, but that's still an insane amount, for a channel completely dedicated to us one specific thing. Like usually when we see big channels, they talk about other things other than just Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Mega Capital G, 135,000. DZeef is almost at 200,000. Simo's at 300,000. Nim Farfun. I remember a lot of these people having like 1, to 2,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 subscribers, right? And House of Champs, I remember him, and I really like seeing that, right? But at some point, at every point, people get to a spot where they stop playing the game, right? And that's really all that we have left to see. Like the only thing that we have left, or we, in terms of I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, has left, is losing the returning players. And Yu-Gi-Oh is a very difficult game to pick up. And Yu-Gi-Oh is a very unbalanced game. Yu-Gi-Oh, like, for example, when I play Master Duel, a lot of the times, if I don't open a hand trap, I will set my phone down and I'll do something else, right? And if you've done that, let me know in those comments down below, right? Because I just know that if I'm just gonna be sitting watching my opponent play solitaire for 5 to 10 minutes. It's not like that in any other card game, right? And if we're talking about Master Duel specifically, right, I do this a lot, and this is the reason I do this is because I'm curious to see. Because the only reason why a game would change is if it's not doing super duper well, right? That's the only reason. All right, but if we look at Yu-Gi-Oh right now on Twitch, and I know it's 11 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing this, right? But it's got 3 viewers. I saw MBT was on. Oh, he's not playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, he's playing We're Here Forever. Okay, that's fine. Other people do that too. You're allowed to do whatever you want to. Like, I don't only play Yu-Gi-Oh either, so that's totally fine. But Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel, it's got 1,000 viewers. And if you check Twitch, just about every single time when you check Twitch, it'll have about 1,000 viewers, which isn't really that bad, right? And then we'll check one more thing, obviously, because this was one of the main things that Konami mentioned was really, really big. Duel Links. There's 27 viewers right now. And it's 11 o'clock. It's 11:30 on a Thursday. Of course it doesn't have a whole lot. Okay, well, let's check Hearthstone. Hearthstone has 32,000. Let's check Magic the Gathering, right? And I'm just checking this now. I didn't check this before. I'm just assuming 9,000, right? I don't know if we're going to be able to find the Pokemon trading card game. Oh, there it is. And I would assume it's 4,000. Okay, because I was literally about to say I assume it has less, and then it pulled up that it doesn't, in fact, have less. And in fact, Master Duel plus the trading card game plus Duel Links combined has less than Pokemon, has less than Hearthstone, right? There's another game too, though. This always makes me feel better when I see this. This is Riot's card game. And okay, so this was not the best example, because right now this also has more than Master Duel, right? But in most cases, if you go to Twitch, right, if you're seeing this video, and you go to Twitch, you'll see that Master Duel's beating Legends of Runeterra. It's not usually losing to Legends of Runeterra, but take a look, right? And this is Riot Games' worst game. This has 1,000 viewers, and it really is, because if we look at like Valorant, for example, which is also, it's not a card game, but it's a game by Riot, it's got 131,000 viewers, right? That's up on the higher echelon of tiers, and the reason I'm bringing all this up is look at how Yu-Gi-Oh! Compares on Twitch as a card game to other card games, right? 1.7 on Legends of Runeterra, 4.3 thousand on Pokemon Trading Card Game. Magic the Gathering's got 9,000. Hearthstone has 32,000. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links has 27 viewers. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel has 1.2 thousand viewers. And they have a festival going on right now, right? I think. I haven't really been paying attention, to be honest. Because I have to take breaks from the game every now and again, because it does get a little bit frustrating playing Master Duel specifically. And I have a completely different rant video that I could post about Master Duel, right? But I was trying to go to this one as well. The trading card game has 3 viewers right now. That's not sustainable. Okay? And you have to see, things are either always trending upward or trending downward, right? And I do agree. In 2021, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was trending upward. But that was in comparison to 2020, when nobody could play Yu-Gi-Oh! Except for the remote duels and dueling book, etc. Right? And if... And this isn't a direct attack at House of Champs. He's a great guy. Like I said, I disagree 100%. I can't say that enough with people who say that he's fake. He's not fake. He's not trying to boost up cards. He's just living his life, you know. But at the end of the day, the thing that Konami is doing right now with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not sustainable for another 18 years. I don't even know if it's sustainable for another 10. Right? And the reason for that is because there's nothing new to keep the returners here, and there's nothing new to bring new players in. Master Duel is kind of like that, but we've already seen it starting to dip down in numbers. Like I said, it usually is beating Legends of Runeterra. As of doing this video, it's not right now. And I personally want Yu-Gi-Oh! To thrive. I would love Yu-Gi-Oh! I have a channel on YouTube dedicated to Yu-Gi-Oh! Of course I want it to thrive. But at the end of the day, if I just sit here and say that the King's clothes are really nice, even though the King's not wearing any clothes, the King doesn't put clothes on, right? And that's just a simple metaphor, just saying the fact that if people in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community continue to act like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fine game and it's thriving and it's never been better, then Konami's never going to fix it, and at some point, it's just going to collapse, right? And we're going to be like, where did Yu-Gi-Oh! Go, and how did it die? And I will say this, I do think in 2040, people will still be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I will say that. I'll give him credit for that. But I don't know if Konami will still be printing new Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in 2040, right? I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is powerful enough to have a cult following to where even if the game is no longer being printed, people still play the game chaotic, which is a reference that probably nobody got, right? But that's okay. But if people continue to sit and act like the game is going to be around forever, then, in my opinion, you're completely missing all of the flaws that the game has right now. There are not enough turns, there's not enough player interaction, and it takes too long, which is a really weird combo, right? But at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. I'm super curious to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in those comments down below. Do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dying and will be, dead tomorrow, right? Do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Will be around in 2040? House of Champs even took it a step further and said it'll outlive him. I don't know how old he is, right? But I assume that's going to be a pretty long time from now. He doesn't look like he's super old, right? Do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to outlive you, right? I personally don't think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to outlive me, right? But I hope it does, right? And if you did enjoy this content, please let me know by clicking that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for even more content, but most importantly of all, have a good day.